What happens when you die? Death is the one experience that every human will eventually face, and yet it remains the greatest mystery of life. For thousands of years, philosophers, scientists, and spiritual leaders have tried to answer the same question. What really happens when you die? Is it simply the end of consciousness? Or is there something more, something that lies beyond the final breath? To explore this question, we must look at it from many angles. Biology, neuroscience, culture, and the accounts of those who have come close to death but return to tell their stories. The journey of death begins with the body. In the simplest biological sense, death is the moment when the systems that sustain life stop working. The heart ceases to beat, the lungs no longer draw in air, and oxygen stops reaching the body's organs and tissue. Without oxygen, the brain, the command center of our body, begins to shut down within minutes. This process unfolds in stages. First comes unconsciousness, then brain activity slows, and eventually, even the deepest neural signals fade. To outside observers, the signs of death seem clear. Stillness, silence, and the absence of breath. But what happens from the inside? Scientists have tried to understand the final moments of the brain. Recent studies using advanced brain imaging have shown that when the heart stops, the brain does not immediately go dark. Instead, for a brief time, it may surge with activity. Some researchers describe it as a final burst of synchronized brainwaves, similar to what we see during dreaming or meditation. This has led to speculation that the moments before death may involve a vivid internal experience. Could this explain why many people who survive cardiac arrest report visions, sensations, or even a sense of peace? These accounts are often called near-death experiences. People who have come close to death describe remarkably similar themes. Moving through a tunnel of light, meeting loved ones who have passed away, feeling a sense of detachment from their body, or experiencing an overwhelming sense of calm and love. Some even describe looking down at themselves from above, watching doctors and nurses trying to revive them. These experiences are powerful and often life-changing, convincing many that consciousness continues after death. Yet science offers other explanations. The brain deprived of oxygen can produce vivid hallucinations. Certain chemicals released under extreme stress may generate sensations of peace or visions of light. For example, the neurotransmitter serotonin surges in dying animals, which could account for intense emotional states. Similarly, electrical activity in the visual cortex could produce the impression of a tunnel of light. In this view, near-death experiences are not glimpses of another world, but the brain's final attempts to make sense of chaos as it shuts down. Still, the mystery remains unsolved. If NDEs were purely brain-based, why do they share such consistent themes across cultures and times? And how do we explain cases where people report details of their surroundings while clinically unconscious, such as conversations among doctors or objects in the room? These stories defy easy answers and fuel ongoing debates about whether consciousness is entirely rooted in the brain or if it might exist independently beyond science. Every culture has its own beliefs about what happens after death. Ancient Egyptians believed in an elaborate afterlife, where the soul traveled through trials and judgment before reaching paradise. In ancient Greece, death meant descending into the underworld, a shadowy realm ruled by Hades. Many Eastern traditions, such as Hinduism and Buddhism, teach that the soul is reborn in new forms through reincarnation. Christianity, Islam, and Judaism envision an eternal afterlife, whether in heaven, hell, or another spiritual realm. Though the details differ, nearly every culture holds that death is not simply the end, but a transition to something else. From a purely biological standpoint, the process of dying continues even after the heart stops. Cells in the body do not die instantly. Some continue functioning for hours or even days. Muscles stiffen in what is known as rigor mortis, beginning a few hours after death. Eventually, decomposition begins as bacteria break down tissues, returning the body to the earth. In this sense, death is less of a single moment and more of a gradual transformation. Philosophers and scientists have long debated whether consciousness can survive beyond this transformation. The problem lies in understanding consciousness itself. We still cannot fully explain how the brain produces the rich inner world of thoughts, emotions, and awareness. If we do not yet understand the nature of consciousness, how can we say with certainty what happens to it when the brain ceases to function? Some researchers suggest that consciousness may be more fundamental than matter itself, woven into the fabric of reality, much like space and time. If true, death might not be the end of consciousness, but merely a shift in form. At the same time, skeptics argue that all evidence points to consciousness as a product of the brain. When brain activity ceases, so does awareness. From this perspective, death is simply the end of experience, a return to the nothingness we knew before birth. While this view may seem stark, some find comfort in it, seeing death not as suffering but as the release into peaceful oblivion. One of the most intriguing aspects of death is how people who approach it often describe profound changes in perspective. Those who survive near-death experiences frequently report less fear of death afterward. They say life feels more meaningful, relationships more precious, and priorities clearer. Even when science cannot fully explain their visions, the transformative power of these experiences is undeniable. They suggest that contemplating death can, paradoxically, enrich life. Modern medicine has also changed how we view death. With technologies like CPR, ventilators, and defibrillators, people can be revived after their hearts stop, blurring the line between life and death. This has expanded our knowledge, but also deepened the mystery. If someone can be declared clinically dead and yet return minutes later with vivid memories, what does that say about where consciousness goes during those moments? The boundary between life and death is no longer as clear as once believed. Scientists continue to investigate. Some studies monitored the brains of patients at the end of life, searching for patterns that might explain near-death experiences. Others interview survivors to compare experiences across cultures. While no single theory has solved the puzzle, each piece adds to our understanding of how death unfolds. What we know for sure is that the experience of dying is more complex, both biologically and psychologically, than we once thought. In the end, what happens when you die remains partly a question of science and partly a matter of belief. From the body's physical breakdown to the mind's final surge of activity, from near-death visions to cultural stories of the afterlife, the journey of death is layered with wonder and uncertainty. Perhaps one day science will give us clearer answers. Until then, the mystery of death continues to remind us of the preciousness of life, urging us to live fully while we can. What do you think happens after death? Do you believe in life after death? Or do you think it is simply the end of consciousness? Are you afraid of dying? Or do you see it as a natural part of life? Share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear different perspectives from around the world. If you enjoyed this journey into one of life's biggest mysteries, please give the video a like and consider subscribing to the channel. Your support helps us bring more fascinating stories to life. Thank you so much for watching and for being part of this community.